October 21st, 1600. In 6 hours, 30,000 men will die on this plain. On the eastern ridge, 75,000 samurai, under Tokugawa Ieyasu, are waiting for the light. On the western high ground, 80,000 men under Ishida Mitsunari are holding their positions, watching the valley below. Between them sits the narrow plain of Sekigahara, 2 miles wide, ringed by forested hills, the only corridor through central Japan. By nightfall, one of these men will rule the country. The other will be dead within 3 years. This is not a border dispute. This is not a succession skirmish. This is the collision of every alliance, every betrayal, and every calculation made in the 2 years since Toyotomi Hideyoshi died and left Japan without a ruler. 160,000 samurai have been moving toward this valley for weeks. Everything that follows, the Edo period, Japan's 250 years of isolation, the samurai culture frozen at its peak, traces back to this morning, this plain, these 6 hours. Tokugawa Ieyasu is 57 years old. He is not the greatest warrior Japan has ever produced. He is something more dangerous. He is the greatest reader of men Japan has ever produced. He has been patient for 2 decades, surviving Hideyoshi's reign, accumulating alliances, never moving before the moment was right. 3 of Ishida's most critical commanders have already switched their loyalty to him. Ishida doesn't know this yet. By mid-morning, he will. The battle that follows lasts 6 hours. Ishida's coalition fractures from within when his trusted commanders change sides mid-battle. His lines collapse. 30,000 men die across the Sekigahara plain. Tokugawa walks off the field as the undisputed ruler of Japan. But one thing is different today. Moving through the cedar forest on the western ridge, silent and invisible against the pre-dawn darkness, are 8 men that this century has no framework to understand. They carry no swords. They wear no armor. They move in 2-man pairs with a precision that looks less like soldiers and more like something the forest itself is doing. They were inserted 12 hours ago. They have already mapped every major command position on the battlefield below, and they are waiting for the light. Each SEAL carries an HK-416 assault rifle, accurate to 550 meters, fitted with a suppressor that reduces the muzzle report to something a samurai would struggle to distinguish from a snapping branch. 8 pounds of weapon that can put a round through a man before he hears anything at all. The suppressed MP7 serves as backup for engagements under 100 meters, the kind of distances a forest creates without warning. 4 blocks of C4 demolition explosive, each capable of producing a pressure wave that turns timber, rock, and narrow ravines into weapons. Generation 3 night vision optics that convert pre-dawn darkness into a green-lit tactical map at 300 meters in every direction. Satellite communications that can reach a command structure 10,000 miles away in under 30 seconds. Every operator carries a combat load calculated for 72 hours. Enough ammunition, food, and medical equipment to fight without resupply for 3 days. In 1600 Japan, there is no resupply. What they land with is everything they have. The asymmetry that defines this engagement is not the firepower, it is the distance. A suppressed shot from 400 meters produces no visible flash, no audible report, and no smoke trail. A man simply stops moving. The soldier next to him sees nothing. The commander behind him hears nothing. There is no framework in 1600 Japan, no military doctrine, no battlefield experience, no philosophical tradition that accounts for death arriving silently from empty air. Samurai have faced arquebuses. They have faced cannons. They have never faced a weapon that kills at 400 meters and announces itself with the sound of wind. Tokugawa Ieyasu's army is not a collection of warriors. It is the most refined military system its civilization ever produced. His 10,000 arquebusiers are the sharpest edge of the entire force. Trained in rotating volley fire, one rank discharging while the next reloads, they can sustain continuous fire at ranges up to 50 meters, with enough discipline to stop a cavalry charge in open ground. This technique defeated every conventional army that faced it in Asia for 50 years. Against opponents who close the distance and fight with swords, it is the dominant weapon of the era. Against an opponent that kills from 400 meters and never closes the distance at all, it cannot find a target to engage. His samurai carry katanas, forged through 1,000 years of metallurgical refinement. Blades capable of cutting through light armor in a single draw stroke. in the hands of men who have trained that draw stroke since the age of 5. His cavalry carries Yari lances, 12 feet long, bred for the narrow mountain terrain of central Japan, capable of covering open ground at speeds that give foot soldiers no time to reload. In every battle Ieyasu has ever fought, the combination of arquebusiers at range and cavalry at close quarters has been enough. Ieyasu himself has never lost a battle that mattered. He survived Oda Nobunaga. He survived Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He turns betrayal into advantage before his enemies realize they have moved. His doctrine rests on a single principle, that battles are decided before the first sword is drawn, in the alliances made and the loyalties purchased in the weeks before the fighting begins. He is the finest strategic mind of his era. None of it prepares him for what is in the forest. Not because his soldiers are not brave, they are. Not because his commanders are not intelligent, they are the best military minds of their century. But there is a category of warfare waiting on that ridge that does not exist yet. And Ieyasu, for the first time in his life, is going to encounter something he has never encountered before. A threat he cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot negotiate with. The first shot is fired at 6:22 in the morning. From the ridge, it is a controlled exhale and 4 pounds of trigger pressure. From the valley floor, Ishida's second-in-command leans forward on his horse and does not straighten. No sound, no smoke, no attacker on any ridge anyone can see. The soldiers around him look at each other and have nothing to say. The team works through the target list methodically. Senior commanders first, then unit leaders, then the men carrying signal flags that coordinate formations across the valley. By 6:40, 14 of Ishida's command structure are dead. His formations are holding, his soldiers are still in position. But the nervous system of his army is gone, and nobody on the valley floor knows where to look. Ieyasu sees it before Ishida does. He watches 3 deaths from the eastern ridge and understands 3 things. The kills are coming from the western tree line. They are silent. They are selecting commanders, not soldiers. He does not need to understand the weapon to understand the response. Within 30 minutes, he issues 2 orders. Every unit commander below senior rank dismounts and merges with his soldiers. No more visible targets on horseback. Every formation is restructured to operate on last known orders without receiving new commands. The target the ridge is hunting becomes worthless before the ammunition runs out. It is exactly the right call. A modern general facing the same problem makes the same call. The second order sends 3,000 cavalry into the tree line, not to engage a specific target, but to compress the entire western ridge systematically until whatever is in the forest has nowhere left to go. The SEAL team hears them 4 minutes out. 31 rounds expended, 14 commanders eliminated. Ishida's army already fracturing from the historical betrayals, executing on schedule. The team moves deeper into the forest. The cavalry finds them anyway. First contact at 6 meters. Then the forest becomes the enemy. Night vision washes out from torchlight at close range. The HK-416 at 500 meters is a precision instrument. At 6 meters in cedar forest, against men who have trained for this terrain since childhood, it is a rifle with a depleting magazine. A katana at 3 meters is as dangerous in 2026 as it was in 1600. Body armor stops the blade on the torso. It does not cover every angle. 2 operators take blade wounds in the next 20 minutes. Deep enough to matter, not fatal. The team fights in pairs through the trees. C4 drops 2 cedars across the main cavalry approach and buys 4 minutes. They use it to move north along the ridge, toward the narrowest point of the valley, where horses cannot follow. The last C4 block collapses the ravine entrance behind them. 3,000 cavalry on the other side of a cedar wall, in forest, cannot pursue 8 men who have stopped making noise. The forest goes quiet. Below them, Ishida's western flank is collapsing. The betrayals are executing. The dying that history recorded is happening on schedule, compressed into 4 hours instead of 6. But happening. The SEAL team sits at the ravine edge with 19 rounds between 8 operators and 2 wounded men, and no extraction for 400 years. By mid-afternoon, the Battle of Sekigahara is over. Ishida Mitsunari's coalition collapses the way it collapsed historically. From within, through betrayal, through the defection of commanders who had already chosen their side before the first sword was drawn. The SEAL team did not cause this, they accelerated it. 14 dead commanders in the first hour compressed a 6-hour battle into 4. The western flank fractured faster, the betrayals executed earlier. The the killing on the valley floor ended sooner. The numbers tell the story directly. Historically, 30,000 men die across the Sekigahara Plain over 6 hours. Today the battle ends in 4. The final 2 hours of fighting, the pursuit, the mopping up, the killing of a coalition that took longer to break without command disruption, do not happen. Estimated battlefield deaths fall from 30,000 to approximately 22,000 to 24,000. 6,000 to 8,000 men who die historically on this plain do not die today. The valley still runs with blood, less of it than history recorded. SEAL team losses: 0 killed, 2 wounded. Both blade injuries sustained during the forest engagement. Both survivable with the medical equipment carried in. Direct SEAL engagement accounts for 300 to 400 samurai dead, 14 commanders from suppressed fire on the ridge, the rest from the cavalry pursuit into the forest. 8 operators, 400 dead. The ratio is not subtle. At the tactical level, the intervention was precise. 14 command eliminations in 18 minutes restructured the battle before the first sword crossed on the valley floor. Ishida's army did not lose because his soldiers fought poorly. They lost because the decisions that would have held his coalition together for 6 hours were never made. The men who would have made them were dead before the battle began. At the operational level, Ieyasu's response reveals something important. The restructuring of his command chain, units operating autonomously, commanders dismounted and indistinguishable from soldiers, was not improvised. It was the kind of adaptation that comes from a general who understands that the battlefield has changed, even when he cannot explain how. Ieyasu spent the rest of his life as the ruler of Japan, never knowing what killed his enemy's officers that morning. What he knew was that leadership had become a liability, and he had neutralized it. That insight shaped how he structured command authority in the Edo period that followed. The ripple moves outward from there. A battle that ends in 4 hours instead of 6 means fewer lords dead on the losing side, fewer clans destroyed, fewer families wiped out in the pursuit that follows a longer collapse. The political consolidation Ieyasu spends the next 3 years managing is marginally simpler. Not different in outcome, he always wins that consolidation, but less bloody in the details. The Edo period begins on the same date. Japan closes its borders on the same schedule. The world Commodore Perry finds in 1853 is identical. What changed is the price. What did not change is the outcome. Tokugawa Ieyasu controls Japan on the evening of October 21st, 1600, exactly as he did historically. The flag over Sekigahara belongs to the same man it always belonged to. The battle lasted 4 hours instead of 6. History moves on exactly as it was always going to move. 8 men changed the price of a battle that was already decided. The technology worked exactly as designed. 14 command targets eliminated in 18 minutes. 6,000 to 8,000 men, who die historically on the Sekigahara Plain, did not die today. Those are fathers and sons and brothers from villages across central Japan who walked home instead of being buried in valley soil. The technology delivered what it delivers. It reduced the cost. That is not nothing. That is everything to the people who came home. It did not touch the outcome. Geography does not negotiate with night vision. Political architecture does not dissolve under suppressed fire. The alliances Ieyasu built over 20 years, the betrayals he engineered inside Ishida's coalition, none of that was a target on any ridge. The Battle of Sekigahara was decided in the months before the first shot was fired. 8 operators with the most advanced small arms ever produced could accelerate the announcement of that decision. They could not rewrite it. Set against the question of what military technology actually changes, the numbers give the only honest answer available. Not fewer wars, not different outcomes. Fewer bodies in the specific battle where the technology was present. That is the ceiling. That is what it does. Military progress is real, but it lives in a specific place, between a soldier and the death that was waiting for him on a particular day. It does not live in strategy. It does not live in the political logic of civilizations. It does not change who rules a country when the country was never in question. It changes who survives the morning. 8 men cannot rewrite history. They can only make it less expensive for the people dying inside it. That is what military progress actually looks like. Not victories that wouldn't otherwise happen. Lives that wouldn't otherwise be lost.